Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show, and we're the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health and well-being. So today we're delving deep and talking about families, and specifically how the way our families handle mental health can affect one's life. Now, tackling this tough topic is resident psychologist Dr. Audrey Tang, who'll be giving her insights on the psychological benefits and subsequent implications of family involvement with our mental health. We'll then hear from real-life story guest Solse Sowah on how a dire family situation affected his mental health. And also, how can you tell if you're parenting effectively or being overprotective? Sharon Lawton gives us all the answers. And as you know, we love to cover nutrition on our program because this does influence a person's mental well-being. So Hannah Richards shows us a nutritious recipe that you can do with any member of your family. And Helena Chard gives us the latest in feel-good news in Behind the Fame. And I'll also be sharing my own tips on how I keep my family mentally healthy. Now, according to a study made by the Australian Institute of Criminology, close family members often play a significant role in caring for those that suffer with serious mental health disorders, which can affect the carer's own mental health. Their study also highlights that it isn't only those who suffer with mental health issues that can strain a family's collective mental health. Difficult times do affect both the wellness of the family and the individuals, with some families pulling together during a time of crisis and others losing their collective strength. But what do you on Twitter think? Chromati says, check in on your friends and family's mental health, guys. Don't just call them when you need something. Very good advice there. Trav understands his priorities, saying a strong family and circle is so essential to mental health in this life, because we all face hardships, but without those, you lack perspective. Madeline doesn't feel the same. She says, beginning to feel like my lack of mental health doesn't matter to anyone in my family, or even to me for that matter. Beth says, we live in a world where we raise concern for our mental health and our own families say no one cares. It's not all doom and gloom, as Jen shares. Thank God I found a super doctor. Thank God I have resources to afford it. My insurance won't pay anything. I love my family. So some very interesting thoughts there on family and mental health. But what does our resident psychologist, Dr. Audrey Tang, have to say about this? Well, here she is. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So mental health and the family, closely related. How
Yes.
does one affect the other?
First of all, you've got the period of adjustment when you get the diagnosis, because it goes from that, oh, it could be this, it could be that, to something that's a little bit more concrete. And that can then lead to other changes. So you might have to restrict maybe where you're going, you might have to change your lifestyle a little bit. It might affect siblings as well, who may not understand what's going on. You've even got a situation whereby the change has been gradual. So for example, an aging parent, and you've got the parent who's maybe had a mental illness diagnosis, but they're still fighting for their independence, whilst you as the child are thinking, oh no, I'm not sure whether they can look after themselves. And so you've got that struggle. It can be a very positive thing, because what does tend to happen is when the family pulls together, when you've got a mental health diagnosis, you end up almost having your own social network of people who are on your side and supportive. And there's been a great book called Children of Mental Illness, of Parents with Mental Illness, sorry. And what's happened there is the children there, say when it's their parents, they've actually begun to empathise better, they have better compassion. So there are some positives linked with understanding about mental illness, because it means that you end up researching a bit more, you end up talking to other people about it, you grow your network a little bit more. But of course, there's that whole adjustment as well. And it may even cost you a bit more to carry on with life as you know it. So it swings and roundabouts. There's positives and there's negatives, and a lot of the time it depends on the family themselves and how they choose to deal with that diagnosis.
And of course, sometimes situations in the actual family can actually lead to things like depression, anxiety, and stuff.
Unfortunately, this is research back in the 70s, but it's still backed up today. You've got a situation where there's a person with, say, schizophrenia. They've gone into rehab, they've managed to come through it, but then if they go back to what they call an emotionally expressive family, they can relapse quite easily. It's the sort of family...
I like the term emotionally expressive.
The sad part is...
I know what you mean, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a polite way of saying it.
It is. It should sound really positive, but in this case, it's almost that family that doesn't listen to each other. They're always shouting over each other. They're not allowing each other to finish their sentences, and that can be very confusing. So sometimes going back into that environment can be detrimental. Also, there was a wonderful film called Family Life in 1971, which showed the struggle of a woman with mental health issues, and the family was largely a part of that. Also, you've got the situation where if it comes to something like abuse, it can start within the family, because that tends to be easier to hide some of the time, and that can cause a lot of mental health issues. So it's difficult. Sometimes families can be the most supportive people. Sometimes our closest enemies are the ones living right next to us. So it's true. It's difficult.
So how then can a family be mentally healthy?
They can start communicating, phones away at the dinner table, that's quite an important thing. Being honest and being open, using age-appropriate language, that's another thing that we don't always think about, because if you are trying to explain a diagnosis to a child, you've got to use terms that they can understand and they can talk to others about. You can also go out a little bit more, make time for each other, but also respect each other's privacy as well. You're sometimes now in a situation, especially with the economic climate, that a lot of families are living in very close quarters. You might have grown-up children who can't fly the nest just yet because they can't actually afford a deposit on their own house. And really respecting each other's privacy is as important as being open and keeping the lines of communication open. If you as parents can actually demonstrate what sort of good communication, really, what it's like to be able to talk about how you feel, but also respect the wishes of the other person, that's probably the most important thing of all.
Brilliant. Audrey, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next week for another mental health topic.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, guys, so here to tell us how his family life affected his mental health is our real life story guest, Solse Sowah. Welcome to the show, Solse.
Hello.
Lovely to have you on.
Me.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for coming on to speak about your life, because you have been through some really difficult things, and I think you're very brave to come on and talk about those things today. So can you start off how things were in your childhood?
Well, it was a very fractured, broken childhood. It was a bad deal gone wrong for my mum. She was supposed to have left me with a few of her friends for a predominantly short space of time, and go and sort of continue her business development, which hopefully should have been 3 days, turned out to be 5. And within that week, she couldn't actually gain access back into the UK.
Oh, wow.
And that deal was in Amsterdam. So not gaining access back into the UK for her. This was, 1983. It was no contact, because we're talking about, lack of communication, computers, all that stuff didn't happen at that time.
Not like nowadays.
Right, so...
How old were you at the time?
I was about 4.5, going on 5. So, from there, I was stuck with this family. And it was, okay, what do we do with this child? We can't get hold of his mother. We don't know where she is. 3 months have gone past now, and it was hell, because I wasn't used to the environment. I wasn't used to the faces. I didn't know no one. I'd just flown back from Egypt, and it was, lack of communication, and everything started to go worse for me. So I was, alienated, feeling that, whatever I'd done was going to be wrong, because I didn't know anything. No one taught me anything. So it was just...
was it quite an abusive situation? It was. It was because, there had been a transaction for my stay at that apparent time, and that transaction obviously stopped because no money was coming to them. So little did I know, anything that was going on at all whatsoever.
and I was stuck in this little room to myself, not being able to communicate because I didn't know English as good, and not being fed, and just practically just being left there. So
completely neglected, basically.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that affect you growing up and, you know, your life after that?
Well, you know, I kind of moved on from there, being put in a system, being discovered from the next door neighbour.
Can you tell us about what happened in social?
Yeah, so in the social care system, I basically knew no one, went into children's homes and faced a lot of things that I never thought would happen to anyone. My best friend, he passed away by suicide, killed himself, right in my eyes as well. And he was about a year older than me. I think he just couldn't take it no more. It was like a mini prison. They were called children's rehabilitation homes. And there's another place where I actually faced CSC, you know, grooming, child sexual exploitation, grooming, and was sexually abused by a key worker woman within that particular rehabilitation home, which continued, and I was, she was found out, or we were found out what was happening. I think, and I was moved to another children's home, and that was it. And
what were you feeling at this time? Because it's just like it was one thing after the other happening.
It's a good question, actually.
Were you feeling anything, or were you kind of like just numb because, you know, all this stuff's going on?
Yeah, I think I was numb. I was numb because I was like, well, you know, this must be normal.
Really?
Yeah, in a sense. You know, when you're sort of, you know, repeatedly bucking on things that you feel, you know, are just everyday occurrences, then it becomes normal. I never thought about it. You know, I was just waiting for the next move, waiting to see what would happen, where I would be, what face I'll be seeing now, who I'll be talking to, who'll be trying to probably try on me, you know, at that point.
Did you ever find someone that actually cared for you properly?
Again, not at that stage.
What about later on in life?
Later on, yeah, things changed. Actually, to tell the truth, my social worker was my closest friend or closest person I trusted, and she had only become a social worker at the age of 22, and she took me on as her first case. So she really wanted to, you know, go by the book and do whatever she could to find that that, you know, reunite me and my mother to reunite. But apart from that, it was no one else that I could trust at that point until my life changed once again, and it changed for what I thought was the better. I'd come out of the children's home. I'd finally got somewhere which I felt would be of stability. It was only meant to last for a week, but as soon as I engaged with this caregiver, it was, wow, you know, this is a mother, and I just felt it.
What was that like after everything else?
Yeah, that's something that I missed from the age of 4 when I hugged my mother on the last time I saw her. You know, that was the feeling. You know, I felt this from this woman, and it was like, you know, it's something that I kind of still remember. You know, that glimpse of a second chance that's going to actually, you know, become something, and it did, because, you know, I ended up being fostered by her and then adopted by her. So I grew, you know, with her for the best part of her life until she passed away in 2008. So for me, it was, you know, that second chance, you know, to feeling what love was, and never had to be fighting for it.
Well, so what would you say the lowest moment for you was then, in everything that you've been through?
Up till now? Okay. There's been a few which has led me to, you know, really sort of look at life and think, thank God I'm actually here right now. You know, it's been a crazy life. And I think the worst or the lowest point in my life that really hit me was when my adopted guardian passed away in 2008, because I felt abandoned again.
Okay.
And I think that was the rebirth of challenges that I would now have to face, you know, knowing that part of a special somebody in my life had now gone.
Yeah.
So it was now again up to me to do what I had to do. And believe me, when she did pass away, that's when everything got worse in my life. It was like the second stage of my fractured childhood. And yeah, I had, coming back to your question, that was the lowest point of my life, you know, up till now.
So I know there's a lot of things to talk about in your life actually, but because of unfortunately our time limit, wish I could spend the whole show with you. But
definitely.
How have you recovered from all of that? What have you done, and what advice would you give to our viewers that are watching today, if they have been through something or going through something, how to pull through everything?
It's trying to find your moral compass at the end of the day. What's going to happen is that, you know, that form of resilience has to come from somewhere, and I believe that everybody has got that form of resilience within them.
Yeah.
You know, whether you want to identify as a trait or whatever you want to do, it's one of those things that if you have to use it, it will come, and sometimes you're not even prepared to use it, but there comes a point in your life where it's now or never, or do I take my life, or what do I do? And I believe that everybody's got that choice to actually, right at that point, really reflect and give that compassion back to themselves in order to move forward. And I think there came a breaking point where I actually said, no, I can't, you know, I can't go down here. I've got to do something about it. Yeah. And I believe that, you know, anyone that's going through something at this moment in time is to really, you know, just to really sit down and give themselves back that compassion.
Yeah. How are things for you today?
It's a good question. It's not finished, it's not done, but I'm starting to be in control. Okay. And I think that's the main thing, you know, right now.
I mean, the important thing is that you've, like you said, you've given yourself a chance. Because if you'd taken your life, that would have been it. There's nothing you can do after that, right? Exactly. But the fact that you've actually had that compassion that you're saying on yourself and decided, okay, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to fight for a better life. That is the point. That's the starting point to recovery, isn't it? That's right. And that's obviously the right choice that you made. That's right. That's right. Because like you're saying, I think everyone does have it in them. And sometimes it's a case of opening up and getting the right sort of help to actually make that change in your life.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for coming on the program today. I wish you all the best for the future. I know you're going to get there. Thank you. You've got that. I know you've got that fighting spirit, which is great. Despite everything you've been through, but I know you're going to get there. Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right, guys, so if you have a story that you would like to share on this program, you can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. Well, don't go away, because after the break, we'll be talking to resident family coach Sharon Lawton on when to be protective and also when not to overdo it. But first, what percentage of children and young people with mental health issues have not experienced intervention at an early age? Is it A, 48%, B, 70%, or C, 93%? We'll tell you the answer after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, your TV program for all things mental health and well-being. Now, before the break, we asked you what percentage of children and young people with mental health issues have not experienced intervention at an early age. Is it A, 48%, B, 70%, or C, 93%? The answer is B, 70%, according to a study made by the Mental Health Foundation. Now, it was Francis Bacon who once said having children is like giving fate a hostage. So we all understand every parent's need to keep their child safe, but Can you be too protective? Well, we've got Sharon Lawton on to help us figure that out. Hello, Sharon. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So, obviously, parenting, very, very complicated. Not easy at all, is it, Sharon? You being a parent, you know as well. So, can a parent actually be underprotective?
It's interesting. I think what we're talking about at the moment is parenting styles. So the way that we parent, so our parenting style is often caught by the way that we were parented as children.
Yes,
and then we either do the same or if it was an unhelpful model, we choose to do something completely different.
Okay.
The important part to remember is when we become parents ourselves, we have to remember that our style of parenting can affect the behaviour of our children. Okay. So it is actually really important to be thinking and discussing all of this. So underprotective. So by underprotective, I'm sort of guessing what we're looking at really is what we might call indulgent parenting or neglectful parenting. And so, or indifferent. And if we're looking at sort of indifferent or for want of a better word, neglectful parenting, we might see a style where the parent is unresponsive to a child's needs. And is also sort of there aren't any boundaries in place. So that's when we might experience a parent saying something like, oh, sort of do whatever you want. There aren't any boundaries, and you might think, oh, a child would really like that response. But actually it can be quite scary to be parented in that way when there aren't any boundaries. I remember working with a parent once, and we were doing some coaching and we were talking about different parenting styles, and she said, I remember all my friends saying, oh, you're so lucky not to be called in. She said, and all my friends one by one were being called in by their parents and I wasn't, and all I wanted was someone to care enough to call me in at night time. So it's
funny, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the second style would be more of an indulgent. So the indulgent parenting style is where you are responsive to the child's needs, but there aren't any boundaries. So this is when we might see an example of the parent trying to be the child's best friend. So, they let them do sort of things because it's cool, or they just want to be the best mum or whatever. And that might be sort of allowing them to drink alcohol when they're too young, just because they don't want to say no, because they want to be liked. But we really need to put in boundaries because we need to be our child's parent, not their friend. It's a very different dynamic, a very different relationship.
I mean, I can understand a parent who had parents that were very strict and probably they felt very restricted and they maybe even kind of thought they hated their parents at one point, and then probably saying to themselves, I will never be like that with my kids, but then they kind of go too much the other way. So it's quite a hard
Absolutely, it really is, because we're sort of trying out all of the time, aren't we? And we're all parents are trying to do the best that they can do for their child, really. So it's a tricky balance.
It's a tough one. What about them being overprotective?
And overprotective again, we get that sort of, it's almost like the polar opposite, really. So a couple of examples again. So we might think of it being authoritarian, so very Victorian, very strict, those punitive punishments, the child's seen and not heard. So this parenting style is sort of quite really overprotected to the point of being very bossy and very controlling. The child can't actually do anything, and the worry there, of course, is that children either rebel or become very secretive or are very compliant, but are compliant because they're fearful. They're so fearful of what's going to happen. So the relationship breaks down. We want our children to do what they're told because there's a good, healthy, respectful relationship. Not because they're scared of us. And then again, looking at a second style of that overprotective parenting would what we would call helicopter parenting. You may have heard of helicopter parenting or marshmallow parenting. And in that style, what happens is we see parents, they are overly involved in a child's life. So they're hovering, ready to swoop in and take control or
so
they
might not be kind of, how can I say, interfering, but they're just kind of there ready to pounce in a way.
So children can't make mistakes. Absolutely, they can't make mistakes. They can't explore. They can't learn because the parents are, solving their problems for them, sorting out their issues, communicating on their behalf. Every single little detail, the parent is there. So again, it's, as you said, it's suffocating, it's stifling, and children don't get an opportunity to learn and grow from that. They become either over dependent, not able to make their own decisions. So it's a tough one.
So Sharon, it's quite difficult. How then does a parent strike that balance?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because there isn't such thing as a perfect parent. We're all trying to be the best that we can be. But there are lots of research, and it wouldn't surprise you to know that there is sort of like the suggested best response, and that is the authoritative style, and that's the assertive parent, where they are responsive to a child's needs, but also they have good, clear boundaries.
Okay.
There is structure in place for the child, so they're responsive, but there's good structure, and also they are looking at not being popular. So when we put a boundary in place as an assertive parent, we're not frightened of being unpopular at that particular time. We know we've put that boundary in to keep that child safe.
Yeah.
The child might not like it, but we're saying we're doing this because I love you and I'm not there to be your best friend, I'm there to protect you. But also it's about stepping back and looking at the bigger picture, and as that child grows, allowing those boundaries to start to grow as well. So it's very responsive to the child's needs, helping them to be age appropriately independent when the time is right. So it is a very tricky one to be able to manage, but it is the one that shows best outcomes for children.
And also I think it's important that if the parent is that kind of parent that is very wants to please their child, that points to insecurities that maybe that have to be dealt with, because maybe they know they're not supposed to be that way, but they can't help themselves because they really want their child to like them, and obviously, you do want your child to, you don't want your child to hate you, but that's the problem with you that you need to sort out, because it's going to affect the relationship with your child anyway. So that's something that you need to address.
It needs to be a healthy relationship, an adult-child relationship, a healthy adult-child relationship, So I'm okay, you're okay. Not that I need to feel good about myself through you, my child. So, yeah.
Great advice as usual, Sharon. Thank you so much.
A pleasure.
And we'll see you again very soon.
Look forward to it.
Well, after the break, don't go away, because we have our nutritionist Hannah Richards giving us a recipe the whole family will love making, that's sure to keep our brains and bodies happy. And she'll also be answering your nutrition questions, which includes this one. Why do I get spots during my period, and is there anything I can eat to avoid this? Find out the answer after this break. Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, the TV program that loves to look after your mental health and well-being. So with us now, we have nutritionist Hannah Richards, who's going to show us a recipe everyone in the family can try out. Hello, Hannah.
Hi, Chrissy. How are you?
Welcome back to the show. Well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So first of all, we're talking about mental health and the family today. Any link with nutrition, would you say?
Well, I think one of the things we don't do so much anymore that we used to do is all sit down and have food together, and it should be a really traditional thing, but it's sort of fading out. So I think if we can bring dinner time, and I know everyone's busy at breakfast, if we can make an effort to all have dinner together, then that's going to be good for our well-being.
Yeah, definitely. So what will we be making today, Hannah?
Today we're going to do a broccoli salad, and the good thing about broccoli is that it's a superfood. You get your greens in, and actually, even though people think it's a bit too healthy, when you eat the stalk and when you eat it in really small bits like this, it's actually got quite sweetness to it. So all you're going to do is buy a big broccoli head, which is so cheap, and you can get it anywhere, and it's always in season, and then cut the little flowers up at the top to the smallest that you can get. And you can sort of sprinkle a bit of water on, and that will just help release the moisture from the broccoli at the same time. You could cook it, you could steam it, you could give it a little bit of a steam, give it a bit.
I didn't actually know you could eat broccoli raw like this. It's quite interesting.
It's just a little bit different, and it's very light and fluffy like that. So we're just gonna do that, and you could probably do any other vegetable, but one big vegetable. Then we're going to moisten it a little bit with some white wine vinegar. We always put a vinegar on a salad, don't we? And the good thing about this,
I do like it though.
Yeah. The good thing about this salad is we're just going to get lots of different ingredients, and it could be any ingredient you like. So these are pine nuts, but if you didn't like pine nuts, you could use pistachios, you could use almonds.
Okay.
We're going to sprinkle some of them over. What are your favourite nuts?
I love almonds, cashew nuts, quite like walnuts as well. Not really into peanuts unless it's peanut butter.
And you can just, you know, if you've got your walnuts, you can really crunch them down and sprinkle them over. Or you could do a mixture of nuts, no problem at all. We're going to have a good seed, so we've got all our good omega-3 fats over there. Some pumpkin seeds.
Lovely.
Raisins for a bit of sweetness.
Okay.
You a fan of raisins?
Not really.
No?
I like them in bread and butter pudding.
Surprise.
Some things I don't like them on their own, put it that way. But I like them in something, normally.
When you can't sort of see them too much, sort of like hiding.
I don't know what it is. It's just like a bit of a love-hate relationship.
We're going to add a little bit of a red onion. So it can be a white onion, it could be a shallot, bit of colour there. Chunky bits. I love onion. I could eat onion raw.
You know, I love it at the time, but afterwards, like, you just can't get the taste away, can you?
Yeah,
no matter how
you
much
need
brush
to
your teeth.
maybe eat it by yourself.
Yeah.
But you can see that lovely purple and green go very well together.
it
I've
does.
colour coordinated the salad for you today.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But you could add a cherry tomato, you could add a red pepper, just some colour. Nice thing about if you are doing a sort of a family all cooking together, you could say, you know, we need a colour of the rainbow. So as long as the salad's got some red, and you might struggle with blue, but lots of really vibrant colours, and you're getting all your good antioxidants in.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the pepper and salt.
Okay.
And you can go to town on that.
Not too much salt, right?
Not too much. Good sea salt there. And then we're going to add mayonnaise, which is absolutely fine. It's really just egg and oil. Yeah. As long as you get a nice, good brand, a good organic one.
Yeah.
And then again, we're just going to. There's 2 tablespoons there, and it's going to give us some good flavour, and it's going to make it a little bit more interesting for the rest of the family. You hold that there. And it's also going to allow the broccoli to moisten up as well, so it's not so crunchy as it first was when we cut it all up.
Should you leave it for a bit before you eat it?
And then I'd leave it a little bit, yeah, absolutely.
How long for, do you reckon?
Maybe just to sit on the side 5 minutes while everyone sits around at the table and get themselves together.
Now, in terms of nutritional benefits with this particular salad, what's it good for?
So I always say broccoli. If there's one thing you're going to do is eat broccoli. Juice it, have it raw, steam it, put it on your skin. Just get broccoli in your life. It is literally the superfood of, you know, reducing inflammation. It's got great trials in cancer studies. Really, it's a really fantastic vegetable.
Does it have to be organic for it to bring benefits, or either way, as long as you're having some kind of broccoli in your life?
Yeah, I would say as long as you're having good broccoli and some broccoli in your life, you're going to be doing, your body's going to be more healthy, absolutely.
Well, it smells lovely, I always say that. I'm going to taste it in just a minute. I'm going to ask you a question first.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so I can't be chewing while I'm asking
I was probably just going to say, like, if you didn't want to put the mayonnaise in, you could probably add some olive oil or a flavoured oil as well. But really, you shouldn't be too scared of mayonnaise. Okay,
and we've got that nicely on the camera, right, guys? There we go. All right, so Hannah, this was a question before the break, and this person's asking, why do I get spots during my period, and is there anything I can eat to avoid this?
I guess you know, there are lots of reasons why we get spots, but generally because all our hormones are doing different things. At the beginning of the period, your estrogen goes up, and then it's your progesterone. But it's really the progesterone that then increases the oil in the pores, the sebum, and then the pores get shut, and then that's when we can get clogged up skin, and then acne comes out from that. You can help the health of the skin by not having things like dairy products, because dairy products can increase insulin factors, and then that has a direct relationship with all the other hormones that are happening around our period. So decrease all your dairy products, increase your vegetables and fruit around the definitely that last week when you're due on. Okay, brilliant. Next question. I'm going to try the salad in a second. Okay. This person's asking, what can I eat to stop my hair from falling out? And while you're answering that, Hannah, I'm going to just try a little bit here. Sure. How can this person stop their hair from falling out? It's really more of improving. This is really good. It's really, really tasty. You sound surprised, Chrissy. No, because I don't normally have raw broccoli. Okay.
Really nice.
So you're going to cook this tomorrow night?
I think I will. I have to go and get myself a broccoli. So back to the hair falling out.
Yes, back to the hair falling out. Broccoli will help. So I always say, you know, it's always about your absorption. You know, if we look after you're basically loads and loads of cells, and if we look after all your cells, then your cells keep you healthy. Hair falling out is, you could think of it as it's things not being absorbed. You know, the body's not being fed, so your nails don't grow, your hair doesn't grow. It's not getting its good nutrition. So it all comes down to digestion and absorption. So what can you do about it? Eat food that comes from the ground, chew your food so you've got more chance of your body absorbing it. You know how we sit down at the dinner table and we do one chew and then we're off? And you know, your body's hasn't got a fighting chance of being able to absorb all those nutrients. So take time and chew your food is probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give.
Brilliant. And one last question for today.
Yep.
This person's asking, there are so many superfoods out there, it's confusing me. What's maybe one healthy food that people should avoid that isn't actually that healthy in the first place?
So something that people eat because they
carry on here.
because they think it's healthy. Gosh, I think you know, maybe dairy a lot of the time. You know, we all got brought up to drink loads of cow's milk, and yeah, it is good for us. But you know, we can get all our calcium from our green vegetables as well at the same time. So as long as that milk that you're drinking, the dairy products, are not highly processed, you're going to get more of the goodness from different types of foods like your leafy greens.
How do you know if something's really highly processed though?
So you know those cheese sticks you get that you could almost jump with because they're so elasticy? That's not a good sign.
Okay.
So when you cut into certain dairy products and they don't crumble, or you can't see the sort of bits in them, then they've been really highly processed, and that's going to be a problem.
And what about milk? How can you tell?
It's just what it says on the bottle. So I would make sure that it comes from a farm, or make sure that, you know, it's the blue milk, because then it's got all the good fat in it. You know, the more you go down the skimmed route, you take all that beautiful goodness out, and then it's effectively just water.
Just water,
So good creamy milk from a good farm is probably the best way to go.
I should be hunting out a farm then.
Absolutely.
Thank
with your broccoli.
So much. My broccoli, my snack cone there. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
See you again next time.
Absolutely.
And guys, if you have any questions for our nutritionist on the program, please do email us on nutrition@chrissybshow.tv. Well, don't go away, because after the break, resident newsreader Helena Chard will be giving us the latest in positive feel-good news in Behind the Fame. And I'll be telling you all about how I personally keep my family mentally healthy. But first, what do mentally healthy families prioritize? Is it A, family time, B, constructive communication, C, frequently expressed appreciation? Find out after this break. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today we've been talking all about mental health and the family. Now, before the break, I asked you, what do mentally healthy families prioritize? Is it A, family time, B, constructive communication, or C, frequently expressed appreciation? The answer? All of these things and more, which I'll also be mentioning in my tips. Now, we all need a pick-me-up, and with all this negativity in the world, it's easy to find yourself getting a little down, and that's why we have the lovely Helena Chard with us to give us the latest in feel-good news in this week's Behind the Fame. Hello, Helena.
Hi, Chrissy.
How are you, my love?
Good. Are you good?
I'm very well. We really laid into that broccoli salad before,
I'm
didn't
full
we?
of energy.
It was delicious.
And
we're wondering if we should actually feel guilty for having this stunning gluten-free donut tower cake on our table. Now, this comes courtesy of vegan patisserie Rubies of London, and you can find them selling this incredible cake and more in their stall in Greenwich or online. Looks delicious and amazing and smells really good, Helena.
Beautiful.
So I'll be cutting that a bit later after you've told us your news today.
Look forward to it. Brilliant. So starting off with equinox at the view from the Chard, which went really, really well. I don't know. Do you know anything about it? So it's to do with autumn, and it's a new thing now. But I think that the most exciting thing is it starts at 5 in the morning.
Really? Oh, wow.
At the top of the Chard.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like a party. It's like 5 until 9. So actually, you could almost
I
go
did read
to
about this.
work.
Yeah.
And it's really good fun. It's just paying tribute to the same day and same evening timings.
Okay.
So partying and autumn coming, but it's a complete celebration where people just full of energy. It started off with a choir, and there was dancing. They had top DJ, and people got dressed up and glitter and leaves. It was like an autumn theme.
Is it just a one-off thing, or is it?
It's a one-off thing because
Okay.
it's an autumn equinox celebration.
Okay.
So, and it's the whole thing is you feel so grateful for your for living, for your world, for autumn, for new seasons. But it's amazing massage and circus skills and singing and.
It sounds like you went.
I didn't go.
Are you sure? Because you look
going to go.
You look so excited. Or is it just it's the broccoli?
It's broccoli. I'm bouncing.
It's the broccoli we had earlier.
It is, honestly.
I actually feel full of energy, and it's all coming towards the end of the show. Yeah.
Amazing. So so basically inspirational and gratitude for the gift of life. That's the whole thing about it. But definitely next year, I'm definitely going. Being a Chard as well, so it all works well. Moving on to It's a New World, something very simple. So albino people have praised Rihanna for her new makeup line, which is in fact, it's foundation shades. And I didn't realise, but she's brought out some very pale shades, and they're really, really pleased about it. So there's lots of people posting online that it's beautiful, because normally it's a bit too orange or too dark. So they're really, really pleased. So something so simple has made such a difference. Did she do that on purpose, or was it just kind of like an accident that she did this?
It
was done on purpose.
Okay, all right.
Praise Rihanna for that. No, it was good. A fun story as well. I always like these stories that involve teachers. So Julian Edelman is a successful American football player for the NFL, the National Football League, I think it is. And he had a teacher, an English teacher, it was like 11 years ago, I think, who said to him, come on, you've got to choose you choose a more realistic job. There's no way you can get into the Nationals and the Football League, it's just not going to happen. And of course here he is, 11 years later, but the teacher actually sent him an apology. It took him 11 years to do it because he felt so bad. Obviously didn't kill the passion because he's there, but apologised for saying what he did. It was then posted online. But, obviously Julian's view is, set your goals high, you can achieve, as we know. So that's a really nice story, isn't it? Somebody who I really love, Rio Ferdinand. I've seen a lot about him recently, and there was a lovely programme as well, because he recently, a little while ago, lost his wife to cancer. And it was quite an empowering story about how he grieved. He actually felt like he was almost like an 8-year-old child. He didn't feel he had the ability to grieve properly. Anyway, it's a story about him because he's former Manchester and England captain, and he's now going on to become a professional boxer, which is I think it's pretty. I'm not quite sure how to take that, but he's getting the training, and he wants to prove that it's a challenge, and he's going to rise to it. Now, whether that will work, I don't know. But obviously, it's amazing sport for the mind and body. And I do
frustrations, though, I suppose.
I think it does. But I do think as well that he possibly is channeling his anger. He still feels, because not only did he lose his girlfriend, his mother was his rock, and 2 years later she died as well. So I think that's probably all we've got time for today. And I'm so sidetracked by this absolutely fantastic cake.
I think we need to taste this cake, shall we? All right, so first of all, we have these lovely little donuts on top. So I don't know how we're really going to cut this. This is always the complicated part, isn't it?
You always do so well. You do so well.
Yes, I'll try my best. Okay, I won't give you the donut right now.
No.
Okay. So let's just cut a nice slice. Remember, this is vegan and gluten-free, and this is from, I forgot the name of, is it Rose of
Rubies?
Rubies, sorry, Rose of London. Rubies, oh, look at that. Do we have a nice close-up of that? There we go. This comes courtesy of Rubies of London. How beautiful.
Thank you so much.
And I shall try some after my tips, because I still got a bit more work to do on the show before I have any cake. And I'll be talking about what I do to have a mentally healthy family. Helena, we'll see you next week, and enjoy the cake.
Thank you.
Let's go to my tips. So So as I said, I will be covering some things that I do to keep my family mentally healthy. And just to say that my family and my relationship with my husband wasn't a bed of roses. And I don't think that as I'm giving these tips that, I have the perfect life, because it took quite a while to get to the point where I am at the moment. I had sort of to learn a lot and to really make some sacrifices to get where I am today. But it is possible to have this kind of family. So my first tip would be to actually know your family members really well. Don't actually assume you know everything about them, or in my case, my spouse, because you've known them for long, you've grown up with your siblings, you've been with your partner a long time, and you kind of start to think, well, I know them inside out. The thing is, we all go through different experiences, and we do change over time, and it's really, really important that you communicate regularly. Because you might think you know someone, and then something happens and you're really shocked, and you think, how could I not have known that, or how could I not have realized that about this person that I love? So what I do every single week, although I lead a very busy life and so does my husband, every week we'll make a point of going out together, just me and him alone, and we will talk. We'll put our phones away. We'll have a chat about what's been going on, and we kind of get to know each other on a weekly basis in a way, even though we've been together like over 24 years now. But we have changed a lot, and certain things that we go through on a weekly basis sometimes even on a daily basis, and we talk about those things, and we're still learning. So it's really, really important that you make that time to communicate. Don't think you know everything there is to know, because things do come up. The next point I would say is to sort out any conflicts quickly. Of course, try and let the small things go. Don't get upset about silly things, maybe things being like a mess being left out and all that kind of thing. Those things that are really not worth it. Don't waste time over things like that. Just, if you have to do it yourself, just do it. Don't argue about it. Okay, you can talk to your family members and stuff, but don't let it be like a huge deal. But if there is something that's kind of, you're seeing it's not normal, that what's going on, it's kind of out of the ordinary, it's really good to actually sit down and sort those issues out. And I went through this recently with my husband, actually. We were kind of clashing over a particular thing that was going on at the time. And we don't normally clash about things. And I was thinking, well, why are we kind of disagreeing on this thing, and we kind of get annoyed with each other? And I could see if we hadn't dealt with it, it would have become an issue. So we actually sat down and we had a talk about it. And we resolved it, and then it was done and dusted. But sometimes I think people are afraid to kind of talk about conflicts or talk about things that might not feel right at the time, or might not be going correctly at that time, because they think, I don't want to kind of make it a mountain out of a molehill. There are things, there are small things that you need to let go, but there are things that if you start to feel uncomfortable, if like you're not enjoying each other's company, all those kind of things, they need to be addressed, and quickly as well. The third point that I do, or I apply in my relationship, is not to be defensive. So, for example, if I know it happens, we all get a bit defensive sometimes, but if your partner or your child or someone that you live with all of a sudden is started to behave in a way that you're not used to, maybe a bit out of character, find out why. Don't assume, for example, that if they suddenly have a go at you, or they're a bit argumentative one day, don't assume it's an attack on you. It might be something that's happened, something that they're concerned about, something that they haven't opened up about yet to you. So try not to be like all defensive, because what's going to happen is that instead of bringing them closer to you and actually encouraging them to open up and talk to you about the problem, you will push them away. They won't feel like talking to you. They're actually going to be agitated around you and might even go outside the house and talk to someone else. So make sure that, if that does happen, try not to get upset, even though of course it is upsetting when someone treats you in a way that they don't usually, but just remember there's a reason for it. It's not just by chance that something like that is happening. And the next point I'd like to highlight is to be on the same team. So there shouldn't be competition in your relationship or between siblings or your partner. There shouldn't be competition. You need to be on the same side. So for example, I remember me and my sister growing up, we were never like competitive in a way of like, for example, that being jealous of each other or wanting to do better than the other or outsmart the other one. I was always very proud of my sister, and when she achieved something, I was genuinely happy for her, and her the same. We're like that until today as well. So, but I see sometimes this happens in families, and even siblings start to hate one another, but you should try, it's something that you should try to cheer each other on when you know, with the other one's trying to achieve something. It's the same with your partner as well. I don't compete with my husband. We work together, though there are times when we're doing very different things, but we work together. I support him, he supports me. We give each other ideas. For example, the MHD challenge that I put together, my husband helped me so much with that, with ideas, with encouragement, all those kind of things. He was there for me, and he was really, and still is, behind me 100%. So it's important that you're not competing, but you're working together. And the last point that I'd like to mention is to make sure that you do something nice every day. Now, we know that we're all very busy, we have so many things to do, but don't forget your family. No matter how, you know, what's going on, what's happening in your life. Maybe you're very busy at work, but make sure you prioritize your family members, those that you live with. So even if it's something, a small gesture every single day, make sure you do it. For example, myself, I almost every day I bring my husband breakfast in bed. Sometimes there's times when I'm not going to see him the rest of the day, so I normally wake up before him. So that's just a little something that I like to do for him every day, and that makes him happy. He doesn't have to worry about breakfast. I make sure he's eaten, because I know that if I don't do it, he won't eat anyway. It's another reason why I do it. So just see what something maybe small. Maybe you are a really busy person, but see something that you can do that maybe doesn't take up too much of your time, but that your family member, your child, whoever it is that you live with, will actually really appreciate. And it keeps the family close. These small things sometimes really make a huge difference. Well, I hope those tips have helped you. And as I said, this isn't, you know, I was never perfect. I am not perfect in my relationship with my husband or my family. These are things that I learned over time. And I'm sure you might say to yourself, well, you know, I've made so many mistakes with my family members, I've made so many mistakes with my partner, but it's never too late to change. Start applying small things in your life every day, and it does make a big difference in the future. But we have reached the end of today's program, everyone, and if you have a story that you'd like to share on the show, or if you have any comments, please do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Until next time, bye-bye for now.